Hello, my name is Keshwani. It's Keshwani, Keshwani. We are here because we want to prepare for the GMAT. We have been solving GMAT math problems out of this book here, GMAT Review, the official guide, the 13th edition. If you do not own this book already, purchase one immediately. You're going to need it. The problem that we are about to solve is the one that you will find on page number 172. Page 172, problem number 144. Let's take a look at it. In problem 144, we are told that initially a factory has 500 workers. Initially it has 500 workers. We are further told that 15% of these 500 workers are women. So let's make a note here. 15% are women. What is 15% of 500? I don't know. How the hell do I know? I know 10% of 500 is 50. If 10% of 500 is 50, therefore 5% of 500 must be half of it, which is 25. So 15% of 500 is 75. Let's make a note here. So initially they had 75 women to begin with. Good for them. Then they hired, we are further told, then they hired 50 more workers. 50 more workers, not men or women, 50 more workers is how they tell us. It says if 50 additional workers were hired, how many of these additional workers would have to be women in order for the final percentage of women to be 20? Alright. So if you hire 50 additional workers, now we have 550. And we want 20% of this amount to be women. But what is 20% of 550? Well, that's very simple. 10% of 550, well, 10% of 550 is very straightforward. You just knock out the zero. Just 55. Therefore, 20% is going to be twice as much, 110. There you go. In the beginning we had 75 women, at the end we have 110 women, which implies that the number of women has gone up from 75 to 110, or by 35. That's it. In other words, 35 of the newly hired 50 workers were women. In other words, the 50 new workers, the new batch of workers that they hired, was predominantly women. Answer is E. Let's do the next one, shall we? Number 145. We're done with this one. We're done with number 144. Number 145. In 145 they tell us that the average was $400 for 10 days. They further tell us that the average was $360 for the first 6 days. So overall, for the entire period of 10 days, the average was 400. They further tell us that for the first 6 days, the average was low. The average was only 360. The question simply is, what must have been the average for the last 4 days? Very straightforward, very simple concept, question rather, and here is the solution. There are two ways we can go about solving this problem. I'm going to leave the classical way, the traditional way, the orthodox way, the mathematical way up to you. I'm just going to show you the quick and dirty way, if you like. The reason why quick and dirty way is not going to look quick and dirty It may look dirty, but it's not going to look quick. It's because I have a habit of writing everything out. Here's what's going on. We were short $40 for each of the first 6 days. For each of the first 6 days we were short 40. That's why the average was 360. And that's 40 times 6, or $240. We were short $240 in the first 6 days. We have to make up for that. We have to make up for this $240 shortfall in the remaining 4 days. We have to make up for this $240 shortfall in 4 days. We have to make up for this $240 shortfall in 4 days. That's 240 divided by 4, or $60 per day. Voila. So the question is, what do we need to have, what does the average need to be in the last 4 days? The answer is very simple. Therefore, the average for the last 4 days needs to be the 400 that we want it to be, plus the shortfall of $60. Voila, 460 is our answer. That's it. The average over the last 4 days has to be 460. Or if you don't like this method, there is another method. I'm going to do it on the top. I need the room, so I need to raise the question. Here's another way of looking at the same thing. Here's what's going on. Here's another method. Or, if you like, we have 400 for 10 days. There's 4,000. For the first 6 days, we had 360. 36 times 6. You have to know your cubes. 6 cubes, you have to know your cubes. 1 cube is 1, 2 cube is 8, 3 cube is 27, 4 cube is 64, 5 cube is 125, and 6 cube is 216. 7 cube, 8 cube, and 9 cube, they do not appear very often in the exam. And finally you have to know your 10 cube, which is 1000. You have to know your squares, 1 through 20. You have to know your cubes, the ones that I put on the blackboard. These are cubes, these are n cubes. And you have to know them by heart. They come in quite handy. It saves you knowing this simple elementary concept, basic concept of arithmetic by heart. Saves you seconds here and there. It may not seem like a big deal, but it does add up. You see, 36 times 6 is the same as 6 cubed. That is 216. 216 with a 0. What's the difference? The difference is, and that has to be, this difference has to be the average that we have for the last 4 days times 4. But this is simply 2000 minus 160. 4 times x is 2000 minus 160. I need a lot of room, so I'm just going to simply erase all of this thing. Otherwise it's going to be too crowded. So here we have 4x equals this amount. 4x equals 2000 minus 160. Therefore your x is simply 2000 divided by 4 minus 60 divided by 4. 2000 divided by 4 is 500, and 60 divided by 4 is 40. 500 minus 40 is 460, which is exactly what we found here. So that was another non-traditional method, if you like, of looking at the whole thing. And as I said, you can do the traditional method with the x, if that's what you want to do. You have my blessings to knock yourself out. Okay? I'll see you tomorrow. Bye now.